All right, so now let's go in and cover the release notes for 8.011. This is the last update we put out a couple of weeks ago, and let's take a look at what some of the improvements are in this update. Again, kind of focusing back into Business Hub. Big request, long time request has been the ability to attach files when you're having communication with your customer, right? Whether you're sending them a note or whether they're replying back, there's always some kind of attachment. Maybe it's the artwork or some kind of additional proof. We do now have the ability to attach files when you're sending a note inside of Business Hub. So if you choose the Add Note for Customer option, there's a new Attach File button there that will allow you to choose a file from your system to go ahead and send out with that email. Just note, when you are using this feature, most email services do have a file size limit, and so you'll want to keep that down, probably files under 15 megabytes or so, to account for any potential limits that the receiving email server might have. All right, we did expand the amount of notifications that you can configure for your team member accounts. So if you go in and edit an account, previously there were only about I think 3 or 4 notifications that you could go in and turn on or off. We've now gone in and made sure that every notification that the system sends out is included in that list to be turned on or off. So this is really helpful if you want to reduce the amount of notifications that you're receiving from DecoNetwork. For whatever reason, you don't want to be notified when campaigns are created. You can go ahead and turn that notification off. Right, so all of these actions can now be turned on or off. I will note here, notifications are specific to the role that the user is assigned to. So if I uncheck Administrator here and I select Sales Manager, you'll notice that I now have a much smaller list of notifications to receive. So it does depend on the role that's been selected. And some roles don't have any notifications that you would enable or disable. So just keep that in mind when you're making those changes. All right, another nice addition, this one to the website front end. We've always had the ability to display the product code, or some people call it style number or product style, right? Like Gildan 2000, that 2000. We've had the ability to display that in your blank product listings. There were other parts of the system where that functionality was missing. For example, the actual product details page or the designer page, or even throughout the checkout process, the shopping cart page. We've gone in and kind of across the board through the website front end added the ability to show that style number or that product code to pretty much every page where you would want to display it. So that includes your product listings, your product pages, the designer, as well as the checkout process. So all the way through, you can go ahead and display that product code now. And this is actually a request that had come in through that last tutorial session. So we had a user that brought it up through that last session. We took it to the team, and they were able to go ahead and add that functionality. So it's a great feedback loop there, taking feedback from you guys and using that to improve the platform. All right, we did expand in this update the ability for the purchasing role to have access to set inventory through the Business Hub. And when you're creating a PO, let's go ahead and show this example here. In Business Hub, when you're going in to create a PO, let's mark this as paid. So when you're creating a PO and you're merging into an existing PO, we display the PO number, and with this last update, we now also display the PO's reference value, reference code or reference name. So if the PO does have that value set, it'll go ahead and display it here. It's useful. A lot of people use that for the job name, so they'll input that as the reference. That way you can easily identify, which PO you would want to merge into. All right. Staying here in Business Hub, there's a couple additional changes here. In the production screen, we added an additional status filter that shows only items that are still in production. So the issue being, if you select the status awaiting production, that will show items included in orders that still have items remaining in production. So for example here, I'm going to set this item as production complete. And if I go back to the list here, you'll notice that even though that one's complete, it still shows here in my list because it's part of an order that has other items that are still awaiting production, right? So it kind of keeps those items together. That new status will eliminate items that have already been produced, even if that order still has other items pending. So it's really a way to see just the items that still need to be produced and kind of filtering out ones that are maybe included in that same order, but just kind of removing that noise of items that have already been produced. That's the awaiting production only status. All right, and the other one relates to an issue that has been cropping up from time to time, which is the issue that if your customer's either computer or email has been compromised, there are cases where their email or their computer will start sending out spam to all of its contacts. And if they've dealt with you and had communication with you regarding an order, that order email that we use to track email through Business Hub is going to be part of that group of emails that's receiving spam from that computer. And so we've had customers who start receiving spam messages through a specific order. To kind of rectify that or deal with that issue, we've added the ability to block emails for a specific order. So let's say, this is an order that I took 2 months ago. I'm now receiving spam through this order because, the customer's email was compromised. I can go in and I can say block emails. And regardless of whether someone's sending email to that internal DecoNetwork address that again, we use to track emails, we're not going to record that here in Business Hub, and we're not going to notify you about it. So it's going to be any email contact to that address is now going to be ignored once you block emails for that order. So that one's a tricky one. Again, it's something that's kind of out of our control in this case, right? We don't have access to change that email address or stop the sender from sending that spam, but at least we can block that communication. All right, and there is one other one here, which this one's actually been a big request we've had along the way, and we do now finally have it through the upgrade that we did to the Wilcom E4 engine a couple updates back. We now have the ability to pull out the color thread information from an uploaded EMB file. And starting with this update, we now show that on your quote and order sheets, as well as on the artwork approval sheet and the production sheet as well. So across the board, whenever you see that EMB graphic shown on any of your sheets, we're now displaying the embedded colorway thread information. So that's really useful. You no longer have to kind of just go off, by eye, just say, that's a red, that's a green. You can actually see what thread colors are used in that EMB file when it was digitized. All right, and the last one here is just kind of general improvements to the speed of Business Hub. So a lot of the requests for example, loading an order list or loading your customer list. Those have all been optimized to make sure that Business Hub is nice and quick. All right, so that takes care of the latest updates in DecoNetwork. And again, we're putting out updates just about once a month. Next update we're working on is 8.012, and there's some cool improvements included in that as well. So we'll cover that once we get to it.